And we're looking good, you'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Carlisle United, the team that's on the ball. Carlisle United, the team for one and all. You're looking good, and we're with you all the way. You'll hear us singing every time you play.
Oh, it's good to be back to winning ways, isn't it, everyone? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, your one-stop shop for all things Carlisle United. From Austin Berkeley to Paul Boatine and Steve Finney to Carlton Fairweather, we've got it covered. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the win over Bradford City and the draw at Mansfield Town, looking ahead to the games against Stevenage and Leyton Orient, and as usual, there'll be some news updates and a look at what ex-United players have been getting up to. For once, I'm joined by both of my co-hosts, Dan McLennan and Mike Booth. How's it going, lads?
Yeah, it's going good. A lot more positive than last week, that's for sure.
Never mind the results. Can you say Paul Boatine again, please?
Boatine.
I've never heard it pronounced like that in my life.
I always presumed it was. Yeah. It's one of those ones, isn't it? It's an unusual sort of naming, is it? The IEN at the end. So.
It's probably one of them where only he knows how to do it.
There you go, Boatine then. It's like it's like Jabbo, isn't it?
Yeah. Apart from that, I'm fine.
Yeah, good stuff. There's no link between those players, by the way.
No, I was looking at them. They're just
four random players. Always nice to hear the names, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some forgotten players there, I think it's fair to say. Let's get straight into it then, lads. First up, I need to make a correction, don't I? Because I cocked up on the quiz last week.
Shame.
I know.
Shame.
I know, but the problem is, I put together this quiz based on seeing a clip on the internet of this player. That's what makes it even worse. It's ridiculous. So basically, if you remember last week's quiz, essentially I wanted to know the 11, as I said, players who've played or managed Carlisle United, who've also been in World Cup squads. Turns out there's 12 of them, because the one I missed out, of course, was Tim Krul. Quite famously as well. He's probably the one who, you'd probably remember the most, wouldn't you? You'd think, but there you go.
Especially as he got subbed on for a penalty shootout.
Yeah, and just basically acted like a shithouse for the shootout, didn't he? So
but as well, his record of saving penalties before that shootout wasn't actually any good. But
that's the weird thing, isn't it?
Psychologically, you're up against a keeper that's specifically been brought on for the penalty shootout.
I can see the workings behind it. If you know you're going into a shootout and you think, oh, why are these bringing this lad on? He must be good at penalties. Yeah. It must, just plant that little seed of doubt.
Yeah. And he's a big fella as well, isn't he? He's got a big frame on him, so there you go. Okay then, so let's move straight on to the news. Not a huge amount again to report. I mean, we're so busy with games, there's just nothing really happening off the pitch, is there, Dan?
No.
So first up, the Bolton game, that's been moved to a 7 o'clock kickoff. Pretty much like every other game that's been midweek this season. So that's in sort of mid-April, isn't it? I think that one. Our first ever visit to the Reebok Stadium. As it's going, it's probably going to be the first one for a while as well, isn't it? I think, because they're absolutely flying up the league.
I hope so, because I backed them at 33-1 the other week.
Smart move, that, to be fair. In the way, the run they're on is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the other bit is something we missed actually a couple of weeks ago. Dean Furman has been called up again to the Bafana squad for the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Ghana and Sudan. He's definitely going to miss the next 3 games after this weekend's trip to Stevenage, but he's actually missed the last few as well, hasn't he? So you were wondering about this one, Dan, weren't you? Whether it's an isolation thing.
Yeah, obviously he's going to miss the 3 games. Orient at home on Tuesday, Cambridge at home the following Saturday, and Crawley at home the following Tuesday. We think he should be back in the country on Monday or Tuesday at the start of April, but that means he would miss Southend away and Scunthorpe at home, because South Africa are currently what's deemed a red list country. And that's the 10 days isolation in a hotel, etc. It'd be interesting to see if the South African Federation have to pay for this isolation. I would imagine they would, because it's they're wanting him.
I mean, it's sometimes different, isn't it, for elite sportsmen, isn't it? They get exemptions if they take tests and stuff. But I'm not sure if that's changed based on South Africa being a One of the red list ones.
No, because there was a big fuss about this from Clippity Klopp, Jurgen Klopp, because all the South American countries are deemed red zone, and if all like the Brazilians etc. went over, there was a big thing about they'll have to isolate for 10 days when they come back, and I think they've actually cancelled the South American games.
Yeah.
So, not like Jurgen Klopp to look for an excuse. He's not well known for it in any way, is he?
I know you're not his biggest fan, let's say that. Okay, well, that's the news out of the way, so let's get straight then into the match review section. So we're looking back at the 3-1 win over Bradford City and the 1-1 draw at Mansfield Town, or Mansfield and Grimsby, as I've put down here on the running order, having not changed the names properly, as usual. The run without a win is finally over, isn't it? So beating an informed Bradford City at Brunton Park with a performance that's probably more like the ones we saw earlier in the season, wasn't it, Mike? I think we looked not exactly like the team that sort of beat Walsall and Bradford earlier in the season and Stevenage and stuff like that, but we weren't far off, were we?
Yeah, it was very convincing as well. No one can say that we rode our luck, really, can they? I think the difference was we played it out when we could, but we didn't sort of play football all game. We still went direct when we needed to, but we just sort of played a lot more football and a lot more like our fullbacks were able to overlap a little bit and get crosses in. But what's great for me is obviously before the first goal, Lewis Alessandra fluffed an absolute sitter, didn't he? When I think Dickinson had the shot and it got parried out and Alessandra fluffed it. But it's good that we're in a position where players are missing sitters, because before the Dickinson against Grimsby sitter, we weren't getting those sorts of chances. So all right, they're not going in the net, but at least we're getting much better chances than we were.
Yeah, absolutely. That was obviously followed up with the hard-earned draw, I think it's fair to say, at Mansfield Town to make it 3 games unbeaten for the Blues, and I suppose start to reignite a little bit of hope of a push for the playoff place. Hopefully that's still possible before the end of the season, Dan.
Yeah, it was. I think we'll all be in agreement. It wasn't the best of watches midweek. It won't be a game that lives long in the memory. Terrible pitch, which doesn't help. I think that's quite a thing at the moment. The compacted season, and with games being off and a lot of games being played, even the Brunton Park pitch is looking a little bit worn in places, which it doesn't usually. And we've had a lot of rain as well, so these pitches at our level, they're not the best at the moment. But I thought we started quite well against Mansfield.
Yeah.
And they sort of came back into it, and draw was probably right at half time. I think we took the lead, and if we could have just got that second, we'd have won that game. It was a bit of an annoying goal to concede. I know it's been debated a fair bit, but
we'll get on to that in a minute, won't we?
Yeah, but a draw was probably the fair result.
Yeah, I think I agree.
I saw a lot of people on social media saying, "Oh, it's only a point; it's 2 dropped." I think if we can get 3 points on Saturday and make it 4 points from the 2 away games, that'll be a lot better.
Yeah, you'd take that any day, wouldn't you? Really, 4 points in the 2 games, especially when you consider Saturday's probably the tougher of the 2 games when you look at form. And things like that.
And we've got 3 home games to follow that, so it's a perfect time to
it's a decent run.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Bradford game first then. I think I agree with what you said there, Mike. Much improved performance to go with the good result, and just better use of the ball, wasn't it? In terms of just getting it down and in the key areas, actually playing a bit of football. And Bradford were on a decent run of form coming to that game, and we made them look pretty ordinary, I think, in that match. In terms of team selection, Jack Armour came in for his first start for a while. Really impressed in this game, didn't he, at left back? And you'd imagine Nick Anderton's looking at that thinking, I might be out of the team for a bit here now.
He looked very good, didn't he? But for me, I think the issue sort of more with the Mansfield game is these players looking jaded. I think any player, being an international footballer or a League Two footballer, is going to be jaded playing Saturday, Tuesday, 90 minutes every week. And, like, again, Beach didn't make the subs until sort of gone to 70 minutes. So, at best case scenario, you've played 70 minutes and then you're back in the starting 11 again. And I think we maybe just need a bit of rotation to keep things fresh for Anderton to get games. But for me, Jack Armer's our number one left back now.
I've just looked there when you've mentioned subs, and against Bradford we made our first sub in the 77th minute, then 81 and 89, and then again against Mansfield midweek we made one sub in the 86th minute. You know, and it is something I've picked up on. You know, one thing with Chris Beach is he doesn't seem overly keen to use the 5 available subs. There won't be many games where we've used all 5.
No. I can't even remember the last time we did.
And I'd say that we have sort of a better 5 subs that we can bring on than a lot of other teams. I think a lot of other teams,
yes,
you know, a few of their subs are just kind of kids to kind of make up the numbers kind of thing. Whereas our bench is generally made up of players who can come on and do a job.
Do you think Armer, the way he's playing and looking at how good he is on the ball, do you think he's a player, obviously he's playing left back at the moment, but could actually maybe play in a couple of different positions for us, possibly?
I think he will eventually become a centre-back due to his height. Because he's a big lad for what, he's a 19-year-old. It's quite funny because I thought he played well on the Saturday. He maybe didn't play as well at Mansfield.
No, I think he struggled a bit on that, down those wings, didn't he? Because like you said, awful.
It wouldn't be a surprise if maybe Anderton came back in for a game on the basis of that performance. Yeah,
he wasn't the strongest in that game, was he? In terms of the Bradford game and obviously the Mansfield game, the team selection that Beach put out, he put Alessandra and Dickinson on the wings. They're not really two traditional wingers in that sense, are they? Like you know, your Patricks and your Tourés. And the first thought we said before the game, wasn't it, Dan? That it looked a bit narrow, the team, but actually, I think Fox Analytics on Twitter put up the stats, and actually we were a lot wider than we had been in the previous game, weren't we?
Yeah, it's. I mean, there was even a few sort of folk thinking, you know, this could almost be a 4-4-2 with, you know, Riley pushing to the right of the midfield, Dickinson on the left. But no, it was pretty much the usual 4-3-3 most of the time. And yeah, you know, I mean, we know Dickinson can play wide, but Alessandra not as much. But I don't think. Does playing out wide sort of take a little bit away from Alessandra's game?
Possibly. He holds onto the ball quite well there, and I think what we found, obviously, because he was playing on the left, he actually linked pretty well with Jack Armer, didn't he? He was able to hold the ball up, and Jack Armer could then bomb on and do the overlapping and get the ball into the box in the way he played. Mike, how did you think Brendan Dickinson's got in the last couple of games? Because I've seen a few people saying he's a waste of space and not playing. Personally, I thought, actually, against Bradford, he was one of our better players, and he was putting some quality balls into the box, especially for the goal for Zanzala.
I thought he had a very good game. I think him and Alessandra are both very good ball players, and I think they seem to come a bit deeper. They seem to sort of be open to the full-back playing the ball to them, rather than just sort of waiting in the final third for the ball, and I think that was key to how we played, really. But I mean, Dickinson, for me, he's obviously got an absolute peach of a left foot, and that created that chance for Alessandra that I mentioned earlier. But he's not afraid to go wide and get across him with his right foot, which we've had some wide men in the past who have been very one-footed, and as a fullback, you don't want to be playing against someone who you don't know which way he's going to go.
Just something you mentioned there about them more willing to come back. I wonder if that's because they're sort of more experienced, sort of senior players compared to, you know, the likes of Patrick, Coyote, Toure, the young lads basically. You know, and for them it'll be all about getting up and doing stuff. Whereas someone with Alessandra's experience, even Dickinson's been round the block a bit, they get it a bit more, and you know, they're maybe just a bit more tuned in for backtracking, etc.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a couple of incidents from the Bradford game. First up, the second goal. Who scored it? And is it a foul?
See, I thought, having seen it again, that I think Bennett's shout. Plus, as well, Bennett has on social media, he's been bloody uploading it, slowing it down, and all the rest. You wouldn't go to all that effort if it wasn't you, would you? Really?
A little bit desperate, isn't it? That I think it's fair to say.
But you know, if Zanzala's got it, I think that gave him a real confidence boost, thinking that he'd scored. So, you know, who cares?
The BBC Match Report now shows it as Bennett's goal. So I think maybe someone somewhere has said that's a Reece Bennett goal rather than a Zanzala goal. So it's been tweaked to show that appropriately. Do you think it was a foul, Dan, that goal? Because, I mean, I've watched it a few times now, and I personally... I don't see... It's one of those ones that the referee could very easily have given a foul. He could have looked and thought, it's a mess, I could give one. But I don't think it was.
I think if a foul was given, I don't think many people would have complained because it was a mass of people arriving around on the floor and everyone would have just went, well, fair enough. But if you look at the Bradford players, there wasn't much appeal from them, was there?
No.
I think it was a Bradford player that took out the keeper, and then the rest was just a melee, really. But,
yeah.
Your keeper's got to be stronger there, surely, hasn't he? I mean, as well, he needs his defender to actually protect him, and his defender didn't do anything, really, to stop the players getting around him. So yeah, I think we're sort of in agreement. Not a foul, and probably Reece Bennett's goal, which... I mean, Ozzy's still got his 3 goals in 3 games, so he can't grumble too much. Speaking of Ozzy... an incident that was kind of missed at the time, but I did actually see this happen and thought to myself, that looks a bit naughty. Surely that's at least a booking, and he didn't get booked for it, Pody O'Connor, for them. It's a clear stamp on Zanzala, isn't it?
It's a red card when you watch that video that was on Twitter.
Because, I mean, I've seen some Bradford fans try and say, it's just the way he's fallen down, his weight. It's like, I'm not being funny, but your weight doesn't come down there in that position with that force,
it's a clear stamp, isn't it? And a clear stamp is a red card for me.
It's one as well. I think if that was the Premier League, we could be talking like a retrospective 5-match ban or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But fair play to Zanzala, because the way he got up, like he was not fazed by it at all. Like, what an absolute hard man.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we're going to talk about in the Mansfield game. We'll talk about it now. Incredible the turnaround in form for Zanzala, isn't it? In the last few games, he's starting to look. It looks like something's clicked in his head, and he's finally realised, this is how we play, right? And it's not just his goals, his all-round game. He's putting pressure on defenders. He's given them a nightmare in terms of having to deal with him and, you know, pressing the ball as well. He's really impressed, hasn't he, over the last few games, Dan?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just having a look through his appearances when he signed, and you know, he made his debut in that first game back against Exeter, half an hour against Forest Green. We clearly weren't at the races in those games. I know we won the Exeter game, but it was scrappy. And then he was coming off the bench for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 20 minutes. He didn't really do anything. No. And I think just nabbing that goal against Grimsby, it's given the boost sort of thing, you know. We've argued whether it's 1 or 2 on Saturday, but his finish against Mansfield was a bloody good strike.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Gives keeper no chance with that finish.
Yeah, and you know, I'm looking back through when he was at Accrington, he only scored 4 goals in 27 and 6 in 24. He's now scored 4 in 10 for us. Yeah. So you know, if he carries on at that rate, he's going to have his best season. You know, you're looking at 8 or 10. In half a season, which is pretty good going.
And I think he's going to get a run, isn't he, in the team now by the looks of things?
Well, he has. You can't, when he's scoring, you can't drop him, can you?
No.
And I said last week as well, from the compilation when we signed him, a lot of his goals for Crewe were inside the 6-yard box. And before that Grimsby game, we didn't get him the ball anywhere near the 6-yard box. And you know, if we want to credit him with the second goal against Bradford, that was sort of in the 6-yard box.
On the line.
Obviously. Well, exactly. You know, and his other goal was in the 6-yard box. His goal against Mansfield was actually just outside the 6-yard box. So if you get the ball into him in them areas, then he's going to score goals.
Yeah. In terms of the Mansfield game, a little bit flat after the Bradford game. Was that maybe to be expected? I mean, playing at such a high level against the Bantams to then go all the way down to Mansfield, especially with what happened before the game in terms of the traffic issues and things like that. Was it maybe, Dan, to be expected that we weren't going to play at quite the same level as we did?
Yeah, possibly. A little bit after the Lord Mayor's show is a phrase we can use a bit. As we've already mentioned, the pitch was a bit of a leveller. Like you say, the traffic problems. It knackered a couple of the players. Something we haven't mentioned yet. Magnus Norman making his debut.
Well, yeah, but let's get on to that one then. I mean, obviously, Paul Farman was missing. Apparently, Beach only found out at midday that he wasn't going to be able to play. Magnus Norman's had to come in and make his league debut. Thoughts on his performance overall? I mean, for me, I was really impressed with some of his shot stopping, and his kicking was generally solid. A few of them he shanked a little bit, but I mean, Paul Farman's kicking so good. We're sort of measuring him at that standard. That's the problem, isn't it? Brilliant save from Perch to tip it on the bar, but is he a little bit shaky on a couple of the high balls? And could he have done better on the free kick, maybe, Dan?
Yes and no. It was a typical League Two keeper's performance, I thought. There was some good stuff, a couple of bits that weren't brilliant. A few people mentioned their goal, etc. But no, I thought he did all right overall.
How do you reckon he did, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he looked good, but for the goal, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a fully paid up member of the Goalkeepers Union, but I think he really could have done a lot better because he was stood so far over to one side of the goal. I thought, they're going to hit this to his left and he's going to have no chance. But they hit it to his right, and he was probably within an arm's reach of the right-hand post, and he didn't even move. Maybe he didn't see it, I don't know. But
I don't think he positioned his wall very well for it, though, did he? When you look back at it, the lad practically, I won't say passes it into the bottom corner, but he doesn't have to put a huge amount of bend on it, does he? There seems to be a huge gap there, and you wonder, that's your keeper who's obviously sorting out that wall. And then, like you see, his positioning, not particularly great. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's his first game. We all forget the fact that Paul Farman let in 9 goals in his first 3 games for us. That's something we kind of overlook slightly, don't we? I just wonder. I think
he's probably a little bit out of touch as well.
Yeah,
because we've not played any reserve games for a while.
True.
He hasn't played.
No, that's very true.
He's been inactive since before Christmas. So, he's not going to be 100% perfect, is he?
Like I said, he made some really good smart stops. I mean, the save from Perch onto the bar was outstanding.
Yeah, good save.
I mean, there's a small argument there that he made a mistake in the build-up to it when dropping the cross, but he recovered well, and that's the important thing there, isn't it? I think generally on corners and things like that, he was very solid in terms of coming claim with the ball. The problem was, the 2 that he messed up were really on the edge of the box, weren't they? And you look at them, you think, he doesn't need to be coming that far. I know Paul Farman's a good sweeper keeper, but I get the impression those ones, Farman, maybe with his game time a bit more in tune, he maybe looks at that and thinks to himself, I don't need to come for those. And maybe that's going to come with Norman having a bit of game time. He'll realise, actually, I don't need to go to that. My defence will deal with it, and that's where the problem comes. But there's a chance he's going to have a little run in the team now, and good luck to that. I hope he really does well. But for me, if Farman's fit on Saturday, I'd bring him back in the team, definitely. Okay, let's talk about one of my big bugbears from a lot of recent games, and it reared its head again in the last 2 games. That bloody free kick routine. Honest to God, it drives me. What is the point of it? I mean, Beach explained after the game, didn't he, against Mansfield? I tweeted John Coleman and James Phillips saying, can someone just ask him about it, please? Makes no sense. And he explained, it's, putting the ball to the side so you can put it around the wall or whatever. And when have we ever got it around the wall? I mean, he mentioned the Stevenage game earlier this season, but that was much further out. There wasn't really much of a wall then. The keeper threw that one in. I wouldn't even count that one. It was that bad.
Do you know what the biggest problem is now?
Yeah.
Everyone knows about it.
Yeah. Everyone knows we do it. I mean, I know he said, we did something different against Mansfield. Well, touched the ball twice. It just made it twice as bad for me. But I mean...
But he gave an example as well. He said, Callum Guy had one that he took direct and the keeper saved it.
Well, I put up on Twitter some clips from YouTube. Brendan Dickinson scoring 2 direct free kicks for Colchester and for MK Dons. So, he can take a free kick, Brendan Dickinson. Just let him have a go at goal. If we score direct from a free kick on Saturday, I'm taking credit for it, 100%. I genuinely will, in the running order, put myself down as the assist. I can promise you that one in the stats.
Although I had to laugh because on Twitter, after we took one that was just shocking against Mansfield, I think there was like about 10 different Carlisle fans on Twitter all just like tweeted at exactly the same time, like, stop laying off the bloody free kicks, like just all absolutely fuming. And I think we're all just absolutely despairing with it. It's ridiculous. Because remember the days when we had Granger and Devitt taking them, and you almost felt like it's like having a penalty, and it's like there's a good like 80% chance of it going in.
We're gonna score from one on Saturday, aren't we?
Absolutely, It's nailed on, isn't it? Nailed on. We're gonna. A few more things to pick up from the Mansfield game. I think we sort of already covered the lack of subs, haven't we, Dan? It's still just a bit baffling to me. I can maybe buy it on Tuesday night that the pitch wasn't really one suited to Patrick or Toure, but then do you maybe take off? I mean, Dickinson looked shattered towards the end. I think he took that knock to the head as well, hadn't he? And he didn't seem quite right after that. And you wonder, do you maybe put Charters on and just tighten up in midfield? You can maybe then leave Mellish playing a bit further forward, or even Charters playing that further forward, possibly. I don't know. It's one of those ones, isn't it? I think I would like to have seen another change in there for that game. And I know Beach also sort of said, didn't he, that, oh, well, everyone says afterwards, it's fine, but I thought that thing. And it's like, as a manager, I suppose it's one of the things you've got to learn, isn't it? To make subs before they get knackered or before issues come up to keep it fresh. There's the challenge there. Two of a little bit I want to pick out. The revival of Rod McDonald, because a couple of games ago people was talking about him like he was a busted flush and, get him out of the team, he's rubbish. But I genuinely think he was one of our better players in the last two games. I think he's finding his form again, isn't he? A bit of a match practice has helped him, and he looks like the player that we saw before he picked up that injury back in November, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's like a little Duracell bunny, isn't he? He doesn't stop running, the lad, and he's one who's obviously enjoying this run of games. I'm not saying none of them aren't, but he certainly looks like he's got the stamina for it, and he's recovered from his little knock earlier on. He's maybe one that if we are in a comfortable winning position, it may be worth taking off for 20 minutes just to, let him recover a bit more.
Possibly. It's interesting. You're always reluctant to take a defender off, though, aren't you? Really, in those situations, that's the only issue, I suppose, when you look at it. I think he's started to keep it a bit more simple as well, hasn't he, Mike? I think when he came back in, he was trying a bit too hard to play the perfect pass forward every time, but actually he's just been getting rid of it when he can now, hasn't he, in the last couple of games?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, against Bradford, we were playing it out when we could and we were going direct when we should, and I think he was very much one of them players who, when he had time on the ball, why not use it? But when you don't have time, just get rid of it, and he did that very, very well. But when he plays it forward, he's got a very sort of flat kick on him. It doesn't sit long in the air. He's got quite a direct long ball on him, which when used right can be very, very dangerous. Yeah.
One last thing before we move on to the break and to the second half of the show. Talk about Joe Riley and his energy. I've never seen a player who doesn't stop running as much as him in a long time. I mean, coming into like the 8th, 9th minute against Mansfield, he was harrying about the pitch, chasing players, pressing them. For a player who'd not played midfield before, I really have been so impressed with him, especially the last couple of months. Even when we've been playing badly, he still looks like a player who's prepared to go out there and give his all, doesn't he, Dan?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just looking there, this is by far the most action he's had in a season, and he's 24-year-old, the lad, and you do sort of in the back of your mind, you wonder if there'll be a point where he may burn out, but certainly at the moment it doesn't look like it, and that's a credit to him for getting his fitness back after his injury worries.
Absolutely. Right, I think that's the end of part one then, lads. I think we've pretty much done ourselves out in terms of reviewing the games. After the break, we'll be coming back and we will be discussing the upcoming games against Stevenage and Leyton Orient. So we'll be back shortly. Okay, then we're back for part 2. I thought I'd mix it up a little bit there, play the old crowd noise rather than George Tanner's a little bit, but George will be back next week to tell us that you're listening to the Brunton Bugle. Not that you don't already know. Okay, lads, let's get into the match preview bits then. First up, a game that I think if you'd looked at it back in December, you'd look ahead, you'd have said, oof, there's another easy 3 points later on in the campaign. Doesn't look like that now, does it, Dan? I mean, the form that Stevenage have shown since we beat them 4-0, it's been quite incredible, hasn't it?
They're definitely a harder team to beat. I'm just looking here. In the league, they've only lost 3 games in 2021, but they've drawn a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so they've obviously tightened themselves up. And,
I mean,
yeah...
They've generally had a strong defence for a while, haven't they, though? I mean...
Yeah, they've got experience at the back, haven't they, when you look at the squad?
Us beating them 4-0 was a bit of an anomaly, actually, when you look back at it. Because most teams have only really scraped 1-0 wins against them when they have beaten them. So
yeah, and just looking at the last few weeks, there's not been many goals. 4 of the last 6 have been 0-0 draws, and the others were a 1-0 and a 3-0 win, so that's 4 goals across 6 games.
Well, they haven't faced Aussie yet, though, have they? That's
well,
the key
this
thing.
is it. This
exactly
is it.
That. But yeah, I mean, in terms of form, they're 8th in the last 6 games form tables. You mentioned there, drawn, 1-1, drawn, basically, is the last 6 games. In terms of the table, they're now in 15th place on 43 points, having played 36 games with a goal difference of -3. They're only 5 points behind us now. I know they've played like 4 games more or something like that, but it is astonishing because when we looked at it back at that game in December, we were all saying, they look dead and buried. They don't look like they're going to stay up. You in pre-season, though, did predict them to do okay, didn't you? You can sort of take a bit of credit there, can't you?
Yeah, as we mentioned, they've got experience, especially, as we've just said, at the back, you know, the likes of Corker, Cuthbert, Prosser. These are defenders who've been round the block at this level. They know what it's about, and that's obviously shown in the last few games.
They made some good signings in January. I think the signings at Chris Lyons from Northampton.
Yeah,
and he's always been a very good midfielder at this level, so you'd expect him to do well. Interesting that their keeper obviously is Jamie Cumming, who was the third choice at Chelsea, wasn't he, Mike? He had a bit of a nightmare against us, didn't he, that game early season? But by all accounts, he's been probably one of their best players all season, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all right, Dan called it that they'd be all right this season, but I honestly thought that they'd be... I think I predicted them to go down, actually, or sort of certainly around there, but I think they're about 13 points clear of the drop now, so you kind of call them safe, to be honest, and they're now sort of able to play with just a little bit more freedom without sort of having that monkey on your back.
It would take a monumental collapse for them to get dragged back in, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially as well, you look at it, I think Grimsby look absolutely knackered. And then the rest of them is a bit of a bum fight down there, isn't it? I mean, Barrow is starting to sort of slightly...
That's a lovely saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bit of a bun fight.
It is though, isn't it? I mean...
I suppose Easter's coming up, you get a nice bun fight at Easter.
I said bum fight, not bun fight.
Oh, I thought you said bun fight.
No, but yeah, I mean, Barrow just started to slightly pull themselves away, aren't they? They're in a hell of a run of form. But the rest of them, they're all sort of scrapping with each other, aren't they? So I think that's probably going to play in Stevenage hands too there, because I think a lot of them are still going to play each other. And as a result, I mean, they can't all pick up enough form to overtake them, can they? So
I just looked as well. They haven't conceded in the last 6 games either.
Astonishing,
which is
isn't it?
Pretty impressive, yeah.
Yeah, it does show how
the last time they conceded 1 against Walsall. So they're very good defensively. So
I think going forward, they're still struggling a bit, aren't they? They're still not getting goals. I think they rely quite heavily on Elliot List. I think he's been one of their key players going forward this season. But other than that, they're basically relying on boring teams into submission, essentially. Probably deserve a bit of credit for standing by their manager, don't they, Alex Revel? Because, I mean, there was some talk that he might be getting sacked after the game when we beat them 4-0. I think I seem to remember a lot of their fans on Twitter saying he was useless and get rid of him. But actually, look at the job he's done in his first management job. He's really turned it round, hasn't he, Dan?
Yeah, he hasn't done too bad. Like, well, I know we've mentioned it already. The game against us was almost a turning point for their season, wasn't it? You know, it's he's, like I say, he's brought in a couple of decent signings in the window that combined with the experience they've got. And, you know, let's be honest, Stevenage aren't a big club with a lot of money.
No.
You know, they won't have massive aspirations, but he's doing all right, isn't he?
Yeah, I think they've invested a lot into that new stand, haven't they, behind the goal?
Yes,
Couple of seasons. I mean, infrastructure-wise, I think they're trying to build themselves up slowly while keeping themselves established in the league. I mean, you look at them now, they feel like a football league club now, don't they? They don't feel like a sort of a non-league upstart really in the league. They get crowds as well.
They've been in a while, haven't they?
Yeah, they get decent enough crowds, sort of just over 3,000, something like that. You know,
I think they get a little bit of overspill from sort of Arsenal, Tottenham fans who've moved out of London into that sort of area, and you know, and don't want to spend £100 going to watch a game when you can go to Stevenage for £20 type thing.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's the Stevenage bit covered, I think. So let's move on to the next one. I mean, this is a game that we've got to be targeting 3 points against Leyton Orient, haven't we, Mike? I mean, their drop off in form in the last 10 games or so has been appalling, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, I mean, they're still sort of not that far behind us in the league. So, you know, they obviously have quality in there, but there isn't really much of a better time to play them than right now, to be honest. I think if we'd have played them when we were supposed to play them, it could have been a little bit harder, although we were in better form ourselves. But yeah, it should be an interesting one.
It's one of the ones that you actually look at it. The bad form we've had and the bad form they've had has been pretty much timed to the same sort of time, haven't it? The difference is, last few games we've actually started to pick up again, and they haven't. Their bad run of form, of course, cost Ross Embleton his job as manager. I think he's quite a long-serving coach and involvement in terms of things like that at Orient, but he's been replaced by Joby McAnuff, who, you know, I can remember him playing, was it for Reading in the Premier League? Not long back. Yeah. It was quite a while ago. He's played over 150 games for Orient. He's a bit of a sort of legendary cult player with them as well now, and finding it a bit tough in his first management job, but he hasn't really had a chance to bring any players in, has he, Dan? And that's probably counted against him a little bit in terms of that.
Yeah, Orient had a bit of a clear out in January. There was one or two. Half of them seemed to go to Crawley. Yeah, you know. Jake Wright and there was someone else went, and there seemed to be a lot of players go between them two clubs for some reason.
I think one big issue for them as well, Dan, is the fact that Danny Johnson's goals have dried up, haven't they? Because he was on a hell of a run of form, and he's just not finding the net again. I think he had a bit of a knock as well, which took him out of the team, but that's probably been one of the reasons they've struggled too.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the recent fixtures. They haven't scored many goals. You know, one.
I think it's in that run of 11 games, they've had a run of 11 games where I think they've won once.
Yeah. And
in that run, they've only scored 5 goals.
Yeah, they've gone 1-5-5 and them 11.
Yeah.
And,
their form's pretty poor. I mean, even look at the last 2 games they've drawn. But I mean, those games were against Stevenage and Southend. And surely you think they would have looked at that Southend game before. That's a chance for us to get 3 points. Even though Southend have picked up a little bit themselves, they've just not managed, have they? They're really struggling. They kind of sort of, they got themselves close to the playoffs, and then they just didn't know how to kick on to the next level, did they? And they've just hit a real plateau and then sort of almost gone off a cliff, haven't they, with their form, Mike?
I think they almost got dependent on Johnson's goals, and when they've dried up, they haven't been able to really recover from that. Whereas, like, you know, obviously Mellish is our top scorer, but our goals are generally spread more throughout the team, and our issues didn't boil down to one player. They boiled down to the whole team. But I think McAnuff's still registered as a player, isn't he? I think he's only interim manager. I don't know how much he's playing now that he's doing the management side of things.
Well, I'm looking at the last starting lineup for them, and he wasn't in that starting lineup. Yeah. What I say when I look through that starting lineup, the last one for them, there's not many names that stand out there thinking, he's a good player. Or
he hasn't played the last 4 games.
Well, there you go. He's clearly concentrating on that side of things. But you wonder if maybe he'll get to the point where he thinks, I'm going to have to pick myself here because we're not finding form. And like I said, you look at that starting lineup, Dan, there's not many names that jump out there and make you go, oh, God, I'm a bit worried about facing up against him, is there?
No, I'm just looking at the lineups and the squad, and it's there isn't. It's just
much of a muchness, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't think there's like awful players in there really, but it's just, you look at it and you think it's not really a side that's going to challenge for the top. And maybe they overachieved in the first half of the season, and Johnson's goal fired them up there, I suppose. And for them, you'd think surely that their aim now is to sort of plod on to the end of the season, sort out who the new manager is going to be, and just have a clear out and put together a squad to actually have a go at it next season. Surely you'd think that.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Yeah. I mean, even picking out danger. I mean, I picked out Asayuno Cisse. I think they got him from Gillingham this summer. I think he was really good first half of the season, but he's not really done it the second half. And then Danny Johnson, who's been injured a lot, and Tristan Abrahams, who they've got on loan from Newport. But again, he's not really hit the heights for them yet. It's tough for them, really, because they're not in danger of going down realistically, but they're probably not going to make the playoffs now. So for them, what they do for the rest of the season, it's hard to tell, isn't it?
I think it's kind of the opposite of what I was saying about Stevenage, in that Stevenage were maybe expected to go down, and they're in a position now where they can play with a bit of freedom. And I think maybe Leyton Orient would have, from their perspective, would have maybe expected to knock on to the playoffs, and that's kind of out of reach. So they're not really playing with freedom. They're just kind of playing with, like, I don't know, apathy a little bit, like we've seen from us in some recent years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's sort of summed up the two teams.
Can I just add one thing about Leyton Orient looking at the squad? I love the fact that the keeper is classed as Chilean, even though he grew up in Kentish Town.
I think his mum's Chilean or his dad's Chilean. I can't
remember.
Yeah,
he's Chilean. His father's got Chilean descent, and his mother's Jamaican.
Ah, well, there you go. Interesting one with him, though. He's played for both Liverpool and Everton, hasn't he?
Well, Everton, Divina Del Mar.
Yeah, yes. Everton in Chile, that is, of course.
Yeah,
there you go. I like that stat. Yes, I mean, that's pretty much summed up looking at the two teams we're going to face. Okay, well, let's start looking at team news then, guys. In terms of availability of players, I think Morgan Feeney and Jamie Armstrong both still out, aren't they? I think we're probably not going to expect them back anytime particularly soon. Danny Devine, I think, has been out and training, hasn't he, Dan? I think he's been running on the pitch, but not sure in terms of whether they want to get a reserve game into him first, and we know there's one coming up, isn't there?
Yeah, I think, was it the end of last week he was mentioned as being back on the grass?
Yes.
So he's obviously up in his thing, and as we've just discovered before recording, the Fleetwood game isn't happening now in the Central League Cup, and we've advanced to the area final against Huddersfield.
Yeah.
So we could have Micah Obiero against us in that.
It'd be interesting to see how he gets on. Actually, I wonder, would he have played for us in the first competition, actually?
Oh, possibly, yeah.
He did, didn't he? I think he played against Rochdale, didn't he? I'm sure.
Keep it quiet and we might get a win on a technicality.
Possibly, you never know. You never know. So yeah, hopefully Danny Devine's not too far away, because I think we have missed him as another option in midfield, haven't we, really? Somebody who can come in and do a job.
I think we can maybe do with him when Furman goes off on international duty as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Still not sure whether Coyote will be back for this one. It seems to be sort of touch and go, doesn't it? They don't seem to be as bad.
I think Ireland under-21s have a friendly game lined up.
Yeah. And
their squad will be announced any day.
Yeah, so you'd imagine he's going to be...
I would be very surprised if he isn't.
Yeah.
I'm just looking. They haven't quite announced it yet. But he would probably miss the Orient and Cambridge games.
Yeah. Paul Farman, possibly set to miss out against his former club at the weekend. You'd think if he's picked a knock-up that's kept him out of the game against Mansfield, and it was on the day, he's probably not going to feature this weekend, you'd guess.
I would say 50-50 on that.
Yeah, probably. In terms of what team you'd pick, would you make any particular big changes for this game, Mike?
I mean, I keep saying it every week. Beach needs to assess the sort of fitness of the players and go from there, and he doesn't entirely seem to do that. He seems to just play the same outfield players every week. So who knows? But that's probably what he's going to do again, to be honest with you, rightly or wrongly.
Would you make any changes, Dan?
I can see Anderton maybe coming in for Armour, because based on the Mansfield game.
Yeah, possibly. Maybe want someone a bit stronger there at the back. But
and with us being away from home.
Yes, possibly. Would imagine that. Okay, well, let's get on to predictions then, guys. So, first up. Dan, let's have both of your predictions first.
I'm going to go for Stevenage 1-1. Who'll score the goal? Sod it, Zanzala.
It's got to be.
And then Orient, I think we win 2-0. And I'll go for Alessandra's due a goal and Joe Riley.
Joe Riley, okay, there you go. Mike, what are you going to go for?
I'm going to go for a bore draw against Stevenage, 0-0. And I reckon we're going to beat Leyton Orient 3-0. And Zanzala will score twice and Mellish will get the other.
Okay. I'm going to agree with you, Dan, on Saturday being a 1-1 draw. And I'm going to say it as well. I'm going to say Zanzala's going to score that one. I think he's going to go on a run now. And then I reckon I'm going to go 3-0 win as well against Leyton Orient. In terms of goals for that, Zanzala will get another. And then I think maybe goal for Rod McDonald, get his first goal. And John Mellish with another. Why not? Okay, so we're both all in agreement, aren't we? A draw and a win for the next 2 games. I think we'd both be pretty happy with that, wouldn't we? Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll then be going into the next few games unbeaten in our last 5. So yeah, it looks a bit better. Yeah,
and obviously you've got to remember, following up after that Orient game, arguably one of our tougher games coming up in the next run is Cambridge, isn't it? And you know, I know they're up near the top, and they've had a bit of faltering form at times, but they are still up there, aren't they? At the end of the day, so they're going to be a tough side to face. Okay, let's get on to the X-Files section then, guys.
I've got a fair few different ones today. Gavin Riley, who went to Livingston, has suffered a 20cm hamstring tear and is out for the season. That sounds a bad one. He's had rotten luck, hasn't he, since he's gone there, really? He has, yeah. But he's out for the season. And the big transfer through the week, Stockport signing Paddy Madden from Fleetwood for an undisclosed fee on a 3.5-year deal. I mean, that throws up so many questions, that doesn't it? I mean, firstly, where is Stockport getting the money from? I think you know this, don't you? Because I think they've... Yeah, I mentioned, I think it was possibly in pre-season, that they've got a bit of money behind the club now. They're wanting to get back into the league. And this proves it, you know, because Madden was still playing for Fleetwood most weeks. So, yeah. But the other question is, has the money maybe run out a little bit at Fleetwood? Because, I mean, they've lost a few big players recently, haven't they, when you look back at it? Possibly. But I think he's the sort who... They may be just tightening the books with no crowds, etc., you know. Yeah, but I mean, to get rid of a goal scorer like that...
No, I was just going to say, I've heard that the undisclosed fee is 100,000, which is insane if that's true, especially because he's in his 30s now as well. It's one of those ones with Stockport, though, isn't it? You look at it and you think to yourself, with what happened with them in the past, just throwing money at it makes it's a little bit, I don't know, distasteful is probably the wrong word, but it's not, doesn't make you feel great, does it? I just wonder if if things go all pear-shaped there again, you do really want to say to them, "Well, bloody told you so." It's not like you've not been through this before, is it? So, but like while we were sort of kicking around relegation dogfights in sort of the late 90s, early noughties, they were like knocking around the championship. Yeah. You know, it's crazy how these things change in football, and they're nowhere near that level now, obviously. But yeah, they put a bit of money. Obviously, they offered more money to John Rooney than we could, didn't they? Because we were interested in him, and obviously left Barrow, even though Barrow got into the league. So just, I mean, the issue there as well is the fact that in the National League there's no wage caps, is there? From Madden's point of view, at 31-year-old, he's been offered 3.5 years on good money. Yeah. It'd be crazy to turn it down, wouldn't he? Oh, absolutely. Especially if they get back into the league this season as well. Yeah. He's not that far off where he was, and you'd imagine if they get into the league, they'll then want to kick straight on and go up into the League One, wouldn't you? You think so? Yeah. Other stuff, Dan? A former Carlisle United manager has temporarily joined the Barrow coaching team. Neil MacDonald. Yeah, interesting. Which sort of gone under the radar a little bit now. I haven't seen much mention from Carlisle fans. I wonder if that's one where they're planning ahead a little bit there, because Rob Kelly's caretaker there, isn't he? And he's done a brilliant... I mean, the job he's done there is actually quite incredible. You look at it, he's won 6 games. They haven't conceded a single goal in those 6 games. Shows how well he's done. But he's not somebody who's ever really been keen on being the main man, has he? Yeah. He's always wanted to be the second fiddle.
McDonald's been manager a few times. Has done the assistant role a bit as well. I do wonder if they're sort of almost lining him up to take over as manager.
Maybe. And the last one, just a quick one, we've retweeted this on the Brunton Bugle Twitter account. Chesterfield sort of podcast, Legends of Aspire, have done a David Reeves interview, and apparently a fair good chunk of it is about his time at Carlisle, so that's definitely worth checking out.
Do you want me to go through the goals then, Dan?
I've just rolled up to it myself.
Oh, well, then go on.
We've got Ryan Lofts scored again, Kyle Dempsey.
Got two, hasn't he? Dempsey got 2 goals, didn't he?
Jack Idale did too.
Yes, he did, yeah.
Geffin Jones for Bolton. Mark Ellis on his Notts County debut. Just scrolling down. Yeah, Dempsey scored midweek as well. Jamie Proctor scored for Wigan, and he is a little blast from a few years ago. Alex McQueen scored for Barnet.
Oh, wow.
And then, well, this one's a bit regular now, but Charlie Wyke again last night for Sunderland.
Just can't stop scoring, can he? The only game he hasn't scored in was the final at Wembley. Funny enough.
What final?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Don't talk about that, do we?
Well, was it a final at Wembley? League Cup come forward or something?
No. Let's just leave that on, shall we? Jamie Proctor's goal is quite a frustrating one, though, isn't it? Because that's kicking Wigan up and out of the relegation zone, isn't it? And it's kind of like, if we don't go up, I really want Wigan to come down, because that'd be brilliant. I mean, imagine Wigan away next season. It'd be brilliant. Be like a war zone at Wigan North Western, wouldn't it?
There'd be thousands descending.
Well, it'd be great for me though as well, because I can use my free train pass to get to the Wigan North Western. I'll be happy with that. Okay, guys. Before we finish, I didn't actually put this in the running order for you, but should we do the quiz, the guess the clubs one that we've done before? Are you up for that?
Go on.
Go on then. Okay, so let's start out. So anyone who hasn't listened before, when we've had both guys on, we try and do a little quiz where basically they take turns to try and bid how many clubs they can guess that this player's played for, other than Carlisle United. They're all ex-Carlisle United players, but they've played for a certain number of clubs, and you've basically got to list as many as you can. So you take turns, and basically you bid, and then so for instance, let's say it was I don't know, let's say top of my head, Magnus Norman was the player you picked, and let's say he played for 6 clubs, something like that. Mike could say, I'm going to guess 3 clubs, and then Dan could say, I'm going to guess 4, and then Mike would go, well, I can't name more than 4, you name your 4. If Dan doesn't name the 4, he loses the point. If Dan does name the 4, he wins the point. That's simple as that. That's how it works.
I must say, I do feel sorry, because I'm an absolute stato. So.
Yeah. Okay, so the first one up, Dan.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to let Mike have the first bid on this one, because he lost last time. So first player up, a player we mentioned last week in the quiz, it's Peter Beardsley. Now, Peter Beardsley played for 10 clubs other than Carlisle United. How many can you guess, Mike?
I will go 7.
7. Oh, that's a good high bid, that.
Yeah.
Sod it, I'll go 8. Because I've just thought of one at the top of my head that could clinch it here.
Ooh. You're going to bid 9, Mike, or are you going to make him answer it?
I'll let Dan take the stage.
Here we go then, Dan. So
right, we'll go for the obvious ones. Vancouver Whitecaps.
That's correct. Obviously, I should remind everyone here that Carlisle United isn't one of the teams you pick, because we know they play for Carlisle United, so that doesn't count. So yeah, and it has to be professional clubs as well. It can't be like youth clubs or anything like that. So it has to be professional clubs. Okay, so Vancouver Whitecaps. Hang on a second. I've got me a little sound effects here. Let me do that. Is Vancouver Whitecaps correct? Yes.
Is it league games only?
No, it's for just first team games.
Because he played at least 1 for Man United.
Correct.
Newcastle.
Bit of an obvious one, that one, isn't it?
Liverpool, Everton. What am I on to there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He played for Bolton.
Yeah.
And Fulham.
Yeah.
He played for Hartlepool.
That's your 8.
I'm going to go 9. I'm going
Oh,
crazy. He also played for Manchester City on loan.
Absolutely right on that one there. He played for Manchester City on loan. There's one team left. I bet you won't be able to get this one, I don't reckon. What do you reckon it is? Have a random stab in the dark.
Honestly, can't. I'm wondering if it's. No, he never went to Scotland, and I can't think of him at any other English clubs off the top of my head.
It's not an English club. It's Melbourne Knights in Australia. He played 2 games for them. 2 games for Melbourne Knights in Australia. Yeah. So that's the first player down. It's 1-0 to Dan after one of them. It's best of 5. Up next. Okay, so this one, this one is for Mike. Okay, 8 clubs. Lewis Neal, Dan. How many of 8 of the 8 clubs he played for?
Lewis Neal. Ooh, I can think of most of his. I want to go for 5.
Oof, that's a strong bid, that, for the 8. Mike, can you name 6? Or are you going to make Dan name his 5?
See, I can think of maybe 6.
Ooh. Are you going to go 6?
Yeah.
Okay, Mike's going to go 6.
I'll leave my obscure one till the end if I've got it.
In fact, actually, I'm looking here. I think actually, technically, it's only 7. I've just looked because actually he played for one of them twice. I didn't notice that. So it's 7. So you can either go for the whole lot, Dan, or let Mike have a go.
I'll let Mike have a go, but I reckon I can get his 6.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on then, Mike. Let's have the 6.
Right. Well, he joined us from Preston, didn't he?
That's correct.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure after us he was at Shrewsbury.
That's correct. That's 2.
And I'm pretty sure that he started off at Stoke.
That's 3.
And now, these are... I said 5, didn't I?
6.
Did I say 5?
6.
Did I say 6?
You're greater than that.
Yeah.
So you got your 3.
I want to say Notts County.
He had a loan spot at Notts County from Preston.
That's the one that came back to me when we were discussing the numbers there.
Yeah. Now, I think he played for Orlando City alongside Kaká.
Absolutely correct. He did play for Orlando City in America, yeah.
And now my last shout is the one that I really wasn't sure on, and that's Wolves. And when I say Wolves, I mean Orlando Sea Wolves.
Right. That's correct, but it's not professional.
Oh.
So you can have another go if you want. I'll let you off because they are a team you play for. They're an
And I
indoor
warn
team.
you, I know one of the other ones.
Oh, no.
There's 2 left. One of them's very obscure. You struggle to get. I'll give you a clue, mate, because you've found it tough in this game before. I think it's fair to say, but you're still in the right country in terms of another team you played for.
Okay. I honestly don't know. I'll say my favourite US soccer team, and that's Portland Timbers.
You got it wrong, I'm afraid. The 2 teams we didn't have were DC United. Yeah, 2
Which was
seasons.
the one
then.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, he basically went Orlando City, DC United, then back to Orlando City. But he also played for Orlando City B and for the Seawolves. That was an indoor league team. That's why I wouldn't accept that one. The other team he played for when he was at Stoke, he went on loan to IBV in Iceland. So that's the other one that you didn't have.
I wouldn't have got that one.
So there you go. So that's 2 games down. Dan, you're 2-0 up, thanks to Mike not having the 6 or the 5. He sort of pushed himself a bit too far there, didn't he? Okay, next up. So this player played for 8 teams. He played for us not too long ago, a couple of seasons ago. I think he's retired now. Anthony Gerrard. How many of Anthony Gerrard's 8 teams that he's made a first team appearance for? Remember that? Can you name, Dan?
Ooh, he's been at a few places, hasn't he? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say 6.
Oof, that's strong. 6 of the 8. Mike, how many are you going to go for?
Yeah, I could have only got about 4, so I'll let Dan have a go.
Dan.
Right, 6. Famously Cardiff.
Correct.
And Huddersfield.
Correct.
I'm pretty sure he was at Walsall for a good while.
Yeah, there's your third.
And he was at Shrewsbury, but not for too long.
It's 4, that isn't it? I think.
And then he was at Oldham prior to us.
Yeah. 5.
And Chesterfield afterwards.
The buzz is back. We're all excited.
Dan's one.
There's only one
That's your 6. That's your 3.
The world is watching this football team. Because I don't say what I don't mean.
There you go, Dan. That's 3-0. Are we on for another whitewash here, Mike? God almighty.
Clearly, I know.
Yeah. You're up against the stats.
To be fair, of every Carlisle United fan that there is, I honestly think that Dan is by far the biggest statter. So there's no shame in losing to a man with so much pointless information in his.
So Dan, you you had 2 left to get, didn't you? I think.
Yeah, I think you said.
Yeah. So you went Chesterfield after us, didn't you? Did you mention
yeah.
Oldham? I mean, you did you?
Yeah, I did.
Did you?
Yeah, because I said we signed him from Oldham.
All right, okay. Well, the 2 you missed were Accrington Stanley. Had a loan spell from there, from Everton. He started out at Everton. He didn't play at first team game for Everton though, so couldn't include that. And the final one, he had a loan spell at Hull City from Cardiff City as well.
So he did, yeah.
So there you go. So that's that one. Okay, so we've got 2 more to do. Let's do this for a bit of fun here. Dan, you're going to be bidding on this one first. Played for, I think, 9 other clubs other than us.
Christ. It's
Craig Curran. How many of Craig Curran's clubs can you name?
Craig Curran, wow. 1, 2... I'm just going to say 4.
Ooh, that's a low bid. Mike, can you go for 5?
Sod it. I'll have a go for 5. Ooh. But some of them, I'm not sure if they would go down as professional. So, but I'll punt it.
Have a go anyway. Okay, Danny, you gonna let him have a go at 5?
Oh yeah.
Yep. All right, Mike, let's have your 5.
Right. Well, he started at Tranmere, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think he left us for Rochdale.
That's correct.
And he had a bit of success at Ross County, north of the border.
Yep, that's your 3.
And then, let's see, these are where I'm a bit torn, because I know that he played for Nuneaton, but are they professional? But I'll put it forward anyway.
He did play for Nuneaton. They're not professionals. I didn't include them, so I'll let you off with that one. So
okay. I think... No, I'm sure. Did he play for both Dundee teams after... Yeah.
Correct, he did play for both Dundee teams. So that's your 5. Well done. You've got a point on the board, Mike. Fine. How long we've been playing this, you finally got one. So the other clubs that we're missing. So he basically started his career at Tranmere Rovers, came to us for a spell. Then he had a loan spell at Morecambe while he was with us as well. He also obviously went to Rochdale, as you mentioned there. But from Rochdale, he had loan spells at Chester and Limerick.
I was going to say, I'm sure I can remember him playing in Ireland. I just couldn't think what club it was.
Well, yeah, he played for Limerick permanently then for a season. He then went to Nuneaton, had his decent spell at Ross County. He scored 23 goals in 107 games for Ross County. Did really well up there. Yeah. Then he went to Dundee United, then Dundee, and he's now playing for Connors Quay Nomads in the Welsh League. I would have counted that because the Welsh top flight, although I'm not 100% convinced they're professional, but I would have counted that if you'd said that. So Connors Quay Nomads.
I knew he played for them, but I wasn't sure if they'd count. So.
To be fair, Connors Quay also play in European competition.
Yeah.
So this last one, he played for a fair few clubs, it's fair to say. Professionally, he played for 12 different clubs other than Carlisle United. He had a really good loan spell when he first came, and then he signed permanently, didn't really play as much. It's Jason Price. Jason Price. 12 clubs other than Carlisle United. So, Mike, how many do you want to bid?
Places.
I honestly, I can only think of one off the top of my head. One? Sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's not much. Okay, Dan, do you want to bid 2 or do you want to be more ambitious and go a bit higher than
that? I'm going to say 5.
5, okay. Dan, just name your 5 because Mike's not going to bid 6.
He started at Swansea.
Hang on. He started at Swansea. That's correct.
And he definitely played for Tranmere.
That's correct.
Doncaster.
Correct.
And we got him from Millwall on loan, did we not?
That's right. So you need one more.
Did we not send him on loan to Bradford?
That is correct. That's your 5. So you got a nice 4-1 win for you there, Dan. Well done. So yeah, in terms of his career, he started out as a youth player at Aberman, but he obviously, you mentioned there, he started his career at Swansea City. Then he had a brief spell at Brentford. Then went to Tranmere. He was at Hull City for 3 seasons.
Hull.
Yeah, he went to Doncaster Rovers from Hull.
Doncaster was the one that I know.
Millwall, he had a loan spell at Millwall from Doncaster, then joined Millwall permanently. Then he had loan spells at Oldham and ourselves. Joined us permanently. And then he had loan spells from us at Bradford City, Walsall and Hereford United.
Yeah.
After he left us, he went to Barnet. He had a spell for Morecambe. And then after that, he basically went to non-league. And when I released some of the non-league clubs he's played for, it's incredible. So, deep breath here. He played then for Guiseley, Prestatyn Town, Ossett Town, Selby Town, Shore Lane Aquaforce. What a name. Brighouse Town, Almonbury Woolpack. I'm not convinced if that's just the Woolpack pub name.
That's going to be a Sunday League team, hasn't it?
Surely you'd think, yeah. Ossett Albion and Harrogate Railway Athletic. He made 7 appearances for Wales as well, actually, during his career. So yeah, that was Jason Price. So that's it, lads. Bit of a slog, that last bit, I think it's fair to say. See whether people actually get through it. But thanks once again for joining me, guys. Really do appreciate you giving up your time. Yeah, if you've got any comments or feedback or anything you'd like us to discuss, you can get us quite a few places, can't you, Dan? You can get us on Twitter at Brunton Bugle, by email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com, and also on the Be Just and Fair Not Facebook group. Basically, we're always there cracking with all the other Carlisle fans. We've had a few emails in, actually. One from one of the guys in Germany. I'm sorry, I haven't got it open at the moment. But I think it's Ewan, who's living in Germany, who's the Carlisle United fan who's listening to podcasts from there and shows up on our world map. So thank you for dropping us an email about the pod. We really appreciate that, mate. If you haven't already, you can obviously subscribe to the podcast in all the usual places. That's, Acast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. And if you can give us a review on any of those things, it'd be fantastic as well, because it really does help us and gets more Carlisle United fans learning about the show, doesn't it? Yep, so there's no new countries on the world map of listeners, guys. So just, plodding along there. But like I said, anyone, if you know any Carlisle fans living anywhere in the world, let them know, because we want more countries on that map, don't we, Dan? We want to take more countries off.
Yeah, we want to be the United Nations of podcasts.
Exactly that. We'll be back sometime next week, won't we, Dan? I think, to review the last 2 games and look ahead to another busy period coming up, haven't we? Really, with the Easter games as well. That's going to add a bit more to it. Yeah, just the way it goes, and hopefully we'll have that specials out that we recorded the other day, didn't we, Dan?
Yeah, we got the first one of our best of favourite 11s. We've got mine in the can. Lee's is ready to go, and then we'll get Mike's done as well. And then, as we said, when it comes to the summer, we'll hopefully fill up a couple of weeks with some of you guys' favourite 11s.
Absolutely. You get in contact with us if you want to maybe get involved in that one, and we'll try and get something arranged. That's it then, guys. Thanks for joining me once again, and up the Blues.
Carlisle